In 1943, one crop got families through an entire winter with no power and barely any water. Back when backyard gardens were producing nearly 40% of all the vegetables eaten in America, then it disappeared from almost every backyard in the country. Today we're uncovering the 10 forgotten victory garden crops. And Garden Features America completely forgot. Starting with the ones still growing wild in old yards, nobody remembers planting. 1. Shetland kale. Long before seed catalogs were full of the same 10 tomato varieties, gardeners up north were quietly growing something tougher. Shetland kale doesn't look like much at first glance, just a loose rosette of blue-green leaves. But this crop came from one of the harshest growing climates in the world, the Shetland Islands, where wind and frost destroy anything soft. Families there picked the young leaves for the table and let the plant push through winter storms that would flatten modern lettuce in a single night. The secret is in the leaf itself. Cold actually improves it. As temperatures drop, the plant converts its starches into sugar as a survival tactic. Which means the harshest nights of the year produce the sweetest harvest. It's a crop built to reward exactly the weather that kills everything else in your garden. 2. Heirloom rainbow carrots. While kale toughed out the cold, another victory garden staple was busy breaking the rule that vegetables should look uniform. Heirloom carrots never came in one color. Varieties like Afghan purple and red elephant produced roots in deep violet, sunset red, buttery yellow, and ghostly white. Sometimes all growing in the same row from a single packet of seed. This wasn't decoration. Purple carrots carry anthocyanins, the same pigment found in blueberries. While the orange carrot most of us know today wasn't even the dominant color until Dutch growers popularized it centuries ago. Wartime gardeners grew what was available and resilient, not what matched a grocery store display. And in doing so they kept an entire spectrum of genetics alive that modern seed catalogs are only now rediscovering. 3. Cereal rye. Underneath the vegetables everyone remembers, there was a crop nobody harvested at all. Cereal rye was planted in late summer with no intention of ever reaching a plate. Its job was to hold the soil together through winter, choke out weeds before spring planting, and then get cut down and turned back into the earth as a living fertilizer. What gardeners in the 1940s didn't know, but modern soil science has since confirmed, is that rye roots also feed an underground network of fungi that trade nutrients with future crops. It was regenerative agriculture decades before the term existed, done by people who just called it common sense. Instead of removing nutrients from the ground, cereal rye returned them. Once it was cut and worked back into the soil, the plant slowly broke down, adding organic matter that improved soil structure and helped the ground retain moisture. The thick cover it created also protected the soil surface from heavy rain and strong winds, reducing erosion during the months when garden beds would otherwise be bare. By the time spring planting arrived, the rye had already done its work, leaving behind healthier soil that was better prepared to support the vegetables and crops that would grow in the same space. 4. Rhubarb. If kale and rye were about survival, rhubarb was about legacy. This plant doesn't ask for attention. It gets shoved into the shadiest, most neglected corner of the yard and left there for years. And that's exactly where it thrives. Rhubarb shrugs off drought, ignores poor soil, and comes back every single spring whether anyone tends it or not. Some patches still growing today were planted by great-grandparents. Kids were sent out with a knife to cut stalks thick as a broom handle, and those stalks became the pie that defined an entire family's idea of summer. Nobody markets rhubarb because it doesn't need marketing. It already proved itself. 5. Cold frames. Long before backyard greenhouses cost a small fortune, gardeners solved the same problem with glass and dirt. Cold frames were simple wooden boxes topped with an old window, angled to catch the low winter sun. Inside, the air could run 20 or 30 degrees warmer than outside. Enough to keep lettuce, spinach, and radishes alive through frost that would otherwise end the growing season in November. No power, no moving parts. Just physics, doing exactly what a modern grow light tries to imitate today. 6. Bean teepees. Vegetables weren't the only thing growing in a victory garden. Bean teepees turned 6 or 8 tall poles tied together at the top into a living structure, with runner beans climbing the frame until it became a shaded green room by midsummer. Kids crawled inside to eat warm beans, straight off the vine, while the plant quietly did double duty, feeding the family and entertaining the children at the same time. When autumn came, the whole thing composted itself. No plastic, no storage bin, no waste. 7. Olas. The 4,000-year-old watering trick we never improved on. Water was never guaranteed in every region. And that's where one of the oldest tricks in gardening history comes back into the story. Olas are unglazed clay pots buried next to the roots of a plant and filled with water every few days. Because the clay is porous, it slowly sweats moisture directly into the surrounding soil, releasing more only when the ground actually dries out. Archaeologists have traced this technique back over 4,000 years. Used everywhere from the American Southwest to ancient China. And it can cut water use by up to 70% compared to a hose or sprinkler. It's a technology so simple, it sounds fake. And it still works better than most irrigation systems sold today. 8. Phonology. The forgotten calendar written in flowers. Before anyone owned a calendar with frost dates printed on it, gardeners read the yard itself. This practice is called phonology. And the rule everyone knew by heart was to plant potatoes. The moment the first dandelion bloomed, lilacs leafing out meant it was safe to sow carrots and beets. It sounds like folklore, but it's actually a precise biological clock. 9. Root cellars. The refrigerator that never needed power. Once the harvest came in, families needed somewhere to keep it. And that's where the root cellar earned its place. Dug into a hillside or buried under the garden itself. These underground rooms held a steady temperature between 32 and 40 degrees with humidity near 90%, creating ideal conditions for storing food naturally. Potatoes, carrots, cabbage, and apples could often last for 6 months, or even longer, without any electricity. The cool temperature slowed spoilage, while the high humidity helped prevent many vegetables from drying out too quickly. Every crop had its own rules inside. Onions wanted it dry. Root vegetables wanted it damp. Keeping different crops in the right conditions helped them stay fresh for as long as possible. It was a refrigerator built entirely out of stone, and an understanding of how the ground naturally behaves throughout the changing seasons, year after year. 10. The Three Sisters. The plant partnership science still studies. To close the list, we go back to the garden bed itself, where the smartest wartime gardeners weren't fighting pests with chemicals. They were outsmarting them with plant partnerships. The Three Sisters method paired corn, beans, and squash in the same mound. Corn gave beans something to climb. Beans pulled nitrogen into the soil to feed the corn. And squash spread low across the ground to smother weeds and lock in moisture. Marigolds went in next to tomatoes to confuse pests with their smell. And basil was planted as a natural deterrent against hornworms. No sprays, no tools, just a garden designed like a small ecosystem, instead of a row of isolated plants. Every one of these crops and features shares the same quiet lesson. They weren't trendy, they weren't marketed, and they didn't need instructions written by anyone but the last generation that grew them. They worked because they were built around patience, observation, and what the land actually offered instead of what a store shelf could sell.